does literacy, in the context of social justice, serve as a transformative mechanism embedded in an institutional culture of care? Blocking access to literacy has been used as a means of oppression for thousands of years across the globe. Literacy is a means of accessing what society has to offer and a way to achieve upward social mobility. In the article To Build a New Jerusalem, Steve Hahn describes the thirst for literacy that former enslaved people had after the Civil War in the United States. Freed people clamored for schooling because they viewed it simultaneously as a rejection of their enslaved past and as a means of power and self-respect in the post-emancipation world. Educators and leaders have an opportunity to further the cause of social justice through a framework of an institutional culture of care. Cooper, Otis, and Green offer this definition. An institutional culture of care is a learning environment that ensures every student, irrespective of program affiliation or demographic characteristics, feels connected to and cared for by at least one adult at the institution and is supported in successfully navigating the schooling environment.
I present to you my first grandson, William, reading with his mom at 3 weeks old in tribute to my illiterate mom.
Ready? Brown bear, what do you see?
Empowering every American adult to navigate the world with dignity. Literacy is everybody's business, period. First Lady Barbara Bush. Hello, I'm Elsa, elementary educator, social justice leader, and early literacy advocate. Though my parents were illiterate, they boldly left Mexico to bring me and my 2 siblings to the United States in 1978, fleeing poverty to seek dignity in a land where they didn't know the language. Learning to read was my first challenging hurdle as I started school. I felt isolated and had to constantly seek support from the people other than my parents well into my teens. I have broken ground in my family by being the first to complete my Bachelor's of Arts degree and have continued my journey into my master's program at UCLA. My mission as an educator is to continue to build the chain of mentorship, therein building a new generational link of literacy so that students can feel empowered in connecting with the world through literacy. My pedagogy is built upon advocating for foundational literacy skills for children at young ages because this will provide a lifelong benefit. It is imperative that our marginalized families and communities start introducing pre-literacy skills in the lives of babies at birth. The mountains of research in the field of literacy all indicate that early literacy experiences, opportunities for building vocab and literacy-rich environments are essential keys for the development of pre-reading cognitive skills that ensure that all children can be prepared for school success prior to starting kindergarten in preparation for a more dignified and equitable life.
As we consider how the educational system builds literacy for newcomers to access opportunities and relationships in society, we consider students who are new to the country. Beyond the pressing language needs, newcomers often feel an urgency to adapt to their new environment and are pressured to become familiar with the beliefs, values, customs of a new culture and educational system. It is imperative that social justice leaders develop caring relationships with students and tap into culturally and linguistically responsive teaching. It often requires teachers to become learners in the classroom as they seek to know as much as they can about their students. Teachers take the role of learners in the act of teaching, as stated by Paulo Freire. An essential component of cultural and linguistically responsive instruction is the student-teacher relationship. Last year, when I taught the newcomer class, students talked about their new learning environment as a challenge because they felt like outsiders. They wanted to feel like they belonged and could make connections to what they were learning in class. The newcomers in my group were full of transferable knowledge from their primary language. They needed a translanguaging stance, so they felt empowered to share their voice through literacy. I decided to use wordless books and theater to engage students in literacy. They had opportunities for student talk, writing about their own lived experiences, and most importantly, we were creating an environment where they felt seen, heard, and valued. Students were making connections to literacy, each other, gaining listening, speaking, reading, and writing in English. As social justice leaders, we need to focus on culturally and linguistically responsive instruction with embedded institutional culture of care, as stated by Robert Cooper. By sharing about their life experiences through literacy, it gives them a chance to progress academically and access opportunities and relationships beyond the classroom.
We can build equity in schools by building multimodal access to literacy for neurodivergent students. I teach students with moderate to severe disabilities. Their access to literacy is predicated upon society's definition of literacy. Literacy is traditionally defined as someone who can read and write. Teaching students with disabilities has created a paradigm shift for me where I see literacy as a mechanism to access resources and communication. For example, I have students that are nonverbal and cannot write or read in a traditional sense, but they can point to pictures and show me what they want with an eye gaze. They need access to resources just like any neurotypical individual. In their article about social justice, Cooper and Cheekway describe the importance of focusing on individual needs and abilities in the context of social justice leadership. A focus on opportunity or ability to achieve rather than achievement and outcomes alone marks significant departure from standard utilitarian approaches to education and is supported by principles of social justice. Teaching students with disabilities has opened my eyes to the fact that some of the most important contributions my students have are generating love in their families and communities. They teach patience and kindness and introspection. Their diverse way of accessing society needs to be met with unique and diverse ways of accessing literacy. I have one student with many incredible abilities, but he needs speech-to-text and text-to-speech software to help him access literacy. These tools help him access the classroom and community in a way that traditional literacy excludes him. Reframing literacy and how leaders and educators make it available is key to empowering students and families.
We can help our students and their families develop literacy skills for them to be a college and career ready, as well as to prepare a bridging pathway towards higher education with an approach of a cultural care. Yes, I'm here to synthesize and take you all towards a closer examination on how reading serves as readiness. College and career ready culture encapsulates a rich school climate that fosters our youth and their families with courage and encouragement towards accessible resources that are highly ensuring success in post-secondary education. As an educator and a social justice leader, we always focus on preparing our students for life after high school and helping them understand all their options. Career literacy and college readiness are the overarching terms for how well prepared students are to enter the workforce. Research data from the Advisory Committee on Students' Financial Assistance in 2010 suggests that developing strong reader identities and practicing thoughtful, transformable reading skills across the disciplines are the most important components of any pre-college curriculum, but they are especially crucial for our low-income students whose college completion rates are much lower than those of their middle-income peers. So how do we nourish this significance of developing literacy skills for preparing our students towards workforce within our classrooms? This means to be financially literate as well. There comes our grounding to structure a culture of care and authentic college-going culture school-wide through setting clear expectations, fully involve faculties towards college application process, and synthesizing the culturally responsive curriculum with academic equity. Thus, as school leaders, we are the source, or we are the bridging model for academic resilience, motivation, and aspirations for all our scholars to make them dream and accomplish higher for their post-secondary opportunities.
Reading and writing by nature are acts of care, and we should hold care for our students and foster curiosity as they find their way to themselves and the world around them. Let's take a moment to look at these charts that are used to track student reading progress, a common classroom practice in many of our schools. Imagine that you are a child in one of these classrooms that uses this public tracking system, and you are struggling to progress along the reading continuum. Would it be a blast or a flowery experience? Sure, these charts have a visual appeal that at first glance feels charming and demonstrates a shared commitment to reading progress. but these charts actually show zero dedication to preserving and nurturing the self-esteem of children. They are met daily with a visual reminder that they are behind, that their work has little value unless it is on level, and their peers are made aware of it too. These charts can be incredibly harmful for our students. An end to reading before it's even begun. Cooper, Otis, and Green conducted interviews with students to find out how care was defined in their school context. They found that students often perceive high expectations as a form of caring, but in order for such high expectations to be effective, they must be conveyed and communicated with respect and understanding. Here are some examples of conferring. Conferring as a school norm for literacy tracking and development has been highly effective for my students and for myself as a teacher. I learn about my students, have the opportunity to compliment what they're doing well, provide them with individualized instruction and individualized goals, and empower them to try new strategies in their reading and writing. We meet weekly, and I record anecdotal notes while we work together. Authentic caring is a process of connecting with students intellectually and emotionally, and knowing them as unique individuals with interests and agency.
By developing literacy programs through a lens of an institutional culture of care, we can work to meet the needs and abilities of all individuals by helping them obtain access to literature, mechanisms of democracy, and empowering systems.
Friends to know and ways to grow, a reading rainbow. I care.